Good evening to you all. I'm greatly honored that our friends from our friendly ASEAN countries are here in such large numbers. Our Minister for Foreign Affairs of Myanmar, His Excellency Uguna Mong Luin, that I was with just 2 days ago. Thank you for your very warm hospitality, and it's wonderful that close on our visit to your country, our Prime Minister's visit to your country, we have the privilege and pleasure to have you with us here. The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lao PDR, His Excellency Mr. Thonglu Sisulit, that I've had opportunity to meet several times in recent months. I'm delighted that you are with us again, sir. Secretary General of ASEAN, His Excellency Mr. Lee Luang Min, who is again here once again, and I welcome you. Deputy Foreign Ministers, Vice Ministers from ASEAN countries, Chief Minister of Manipur, my good friend, and I think the other Chief Ministers will be here shortly. Representatives from partner organizations for the 6th Delhi Dialogue, and distinguished panelists for DD6, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really truly delighted once again to be here for the inaugural session of the Delhi Dialogue that is becoming today a very, very significant connect between ourselves and ASEAN. Over the last 6 years, this dialogue has helped our efforts to nurture an inclusive, an expansive, and a continuous dialogue amongst the various stakeholders in the ASEAN-India strategic partnership. And we have benefited from this enormously, and I thank you. I particularly appreciate the efforts of our ASEAN counterparts, the foreign ministers, to put this event on their calendars each year, despite a very, very, very busy schedule that we all have. I would like to thank particularly the Secretary General of ASEAN for his presence amongst us today and his efforts to bring this event to be a great success. I would like to take this opportunity also to wish Myanmar success and all success as the ASEAN chair for the year, and reiterate India's commitment to extend full support to Myanmar in its endeavors to emerge on the world stage as a vibrant, beautiful, and a creative democracy. The theme of Delhi Dialogue 6, realizing the ASEAN-India vision for partnership and prosperity, will allow us really a comprehensive discussion of the future course of this strategic partnership, which is now being driven by the vision statement adopted at the commemorative summit of 2012 that we have very fond memories of. The vision statement builds on the civilizational foundation of our relationship and the dynamism and increasing strategic relevance that it has acquired over the last 20 years. It seeks an ambitious engagement on the basis of identity of purpose and interests and the unique absence of any irritants between all of us. It takes into account the value of the ASEAN-India strategic partnership to the realization of the goal of ASEAN community as an economic, as also a political security entity sometimes in the future. The vision statement looks at constructive engagement supported by the ASEAN way of dialogue and consensus and progress at a pace which is inclusive and comfortable for all of us. I would like to commend the ASEAN and Indian members of the ASEAN-India Eminent Persons Group present amongst us today for their very thought-provoking report in 2012, which formed the basis of the vision statement. We've already begun implementation of the vision statement 2012. The ASEAN-India Center that was set up last June will act as a continuous resource for governments. I hope that the modalities to bring in ASEAN nationals can be finalized at an early date so that we can benefit from each other's talent and by the discourse that continuous discourse that we can then ensure. ASEAN-India now has 26 regular dialogue mechanisms across various sectors, and ladies and gentlemen, that is indeed impressive by any standard. The last few years have seen an institutionalization of these dialogues, which has helped us to bring in more stakeholders, industry, some of whom are present here in significant numbers, think tanks, academia, and media have become intrinsic to our discourse with members of the strategic community in ASEAN and India through the Delhi Dialogue and the ASEAN-India network of think tanks. We continue with priority to capacity building, sharing of expertise, and bridging of institutions between ASEAN and India for promoting economic development and ensuring peace and prosperity. We are also continuing with the ASEAN-India Action Plan for 2010 and 15, which now has activities executed or envisaged under almost all its provisions. Some major initiatives are being implemented later this year, as you are aware. If I may just flag them, notably in the field of IT, space cooperation, science and technology, as well as agriculture. Food and energy security issues are amongst our top priorities, as is the urgency for enhancing connectivity between ASEAN and India in all its dimensions: geographic, institutional, people to people, and if I might say, emotional. India is meeting its commitments on the India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway, and we are in the process of dialogue with ASEAN countries to pursue an intermodal approach to integrate road and rail corridors to sea routes and to bring together economic synergies to transform the corridors of geographic connectivity into corridors of economic cooperation and possibility. I appreciate deeply that my colleagues, the Chief Ministers of Assam and Manipur, have taken time to join us in Delhi, and I look forward to hearing their vision later today, as their states are active participants in the ASEAN-India Connectively agenda, and if I might say, the launchpad of India's vision for ASEAN. I am particularly happy to see the participation from Myanmar and Thailand amongst the panelists in session 2 of the Delhi Dialogue, which would deliberate the bridge to ASEAN through India's northeast and Myanmar. Together with members of the ASEAN Connectivity Coordination Committee, who are all amongst us today, I expect that the ACCC India informal discussions this weekend will get food for thought from some clear action points on the way ahead. The economic underpinnings of ASEAN-India strategic partnership are being strengthened. We have completed our process for signing of the FTA on services and investment, and we await the completion of the processes amongst ASEAN countries. The envisaged Trade and Investment Centre, the strengthening of the ASEAN-India Business Council and its Secretariat, the decision to task a working group on soft infrastructure, and the agreement between our leaders at the last 11th ASEAN-India Summit in Brunei Darussalam that we need an ASEAN-India transit transport agreement by 2015 are all envisaged under the vision statement as part of the way forward. We are partnering the ASEAN countries in the ongoing RCEP negotiations that intend to define the economic commons in East Asia. I would be interested to see Delhi Dialogue 6 address in particular the financing and investment related dimensions for this initiative intensive agenda to promote ASEAN-India connectivity. We need optimal resource utilization and out-of-the-box solutions. By some estimates, ASEAN are looking at over $600 billion investment in their region over the next 10 years. India has an even bigger requirement of investment in infrastructure. With all the debate that we have seen in the past few months on the whys and whats of ASEAN-India connectivity, I think the time has come to consciously attempt to address the how with a sense of urgency. I hope that DD6 will help this process. I know that other partners of ASEAN and India are waiting to see how we solve this equation, and it is important that our partners in this endeavor share our vision for the ASEAN-India strategic partnership. If we are to engage industry and promote trade and economic linkages, then the first aspect to address is ease of movement for our businessmen and professionals. Our people-to-people linkages are the bedrock of our potential for lasting partnership. We have visas on arrival arrangements with 7 of the 10 ASEAN countries. I ask you, is it not time to look at long-term visas in the near term as a means to ensure that our human resource capacities are not shackled by procedural requirements but become collectively available to us? Do we not need to make it easier for our businessmen, professionals and experts to travel more easily between our countries and have a sense of participation and ownership of the entire region? This will help India build capacities in ASEAN and also incentivize investments from the private sector. Do we not need to conceptualize and encourage economic hubs to compel and promote connectivity? This will encourage multimodal use of the geographical linkages. Do we not need to progress from a natural partnership to a partnership of bringing together capacities for rapid economic growth and prosperity? And should not the private sector seek a more decisive role in this process? I hope DD6 will deliberate these questions with earnestness. As part of its maritime agenda, India is now allowing 100% FDI under the automatic route for construction and maintenance of ports. We are giving tax holidays, encouraging private sector participation in ports, and incentivizing shipbuilding. The maritime transport sector in India is seeing a rewrite of its story. We would welcome similar enabling policies and measures for Indian industry willing to invest in ASEAN's ambitions. Another very important dimension to the ASEAN-India strategic partnership is its increasing relevance to the political security space in East Asia. With power equations being redrawn, the ASEAN-India relationship provides an egalitarian balance for the maintenance of peace and stability. An inclusive open architecture is our common objective. It is pertinent now more than ever to reinforce existing international law on maritime security. India's naval footprint is essentially that of a net security provider, even as it is set to expand. There is also potential for greater engagement between ASEAN and India in the ARF, in ADMM+, and ASEAN Maritime Forum. For both ASEAN and India, the bulk of our external trade by volume and by value is ocean-borne. Our energy security is linked to maritime sea lines of communication. Transnational crime, including counter-piracy and counter-terrorism, are matters of highest priority to us all, where there can be and must be more effective engagement between ASEAN and India. We therefore support the ASEAN view, which calls for greater ASEAN-India collaboration on political security issues. Ladies and gentlemen, if ASEAN countries hold the ambition of a single community, an East Asia space seeing geopolitical unity in purpose and ambition, India shares that vision. The Asia-Pacific region has emerged as a relatively stable engine of growth. On the strength of this vision, which endorses consensus and amity, it is important that redefinition of the security essentials in the region endorse these principles as well. I hope Delhi Dialogue will aid clarity of thought on these important principles for us and for generations to come. Once again, I welcome you all to the 6th edition of Delhi Dialogue. This forum has shown welcome progress each year in its panelists and discussion frameworks, and I look forward with high expectation to the results of your deliberations tomorrow. I thank you.